Hey everyone, this is Bulba Trainer. I wanted to thank everyone who checked out my latest video. It may not have been conventional, but I was really encouraged by the responses, so thank you. I wanted to continue the trend I've been on lately and discuss religion in Pokémon. That is, the rituals, lore, and comparisons possible from the Pokémon world with what we would call religion in ours. Does the Pokémon world have a religion? Let's dive in and find out. I first teased this video a few months ago by bringing up Alolan Marowak and its rituals around death. I should clarify that I'm not an anthropologist, and death rituals are not always associated with religion. Elephants in our world have shown respect for their dead, and there are documented cases of them mourning or even burying their dead. But that doesn't necessarily mean that elephants believe in a soul or a higher power. In Marowak's case, though, it's said that the flames it produces are its mother's spirit channeled, or even that its mother's spirit protects this Pokemon. This is Pokédex information, so let's take it with a grain of salt, but the higher cognition of Pokemon suggests to me that Alolan Marowak may be what we would see as a conjurer of sorts. Not necessarily a shaman or a priest, but someone who can summon spirits, and because of the belief in those spirits, has burial rituals associated with those beliefs. It could very well be that seeing the distress its own mother's soul is experiencing, it buries its companions to help them avoid the same fate. Similarly, Blossom are said to dance to invoke the sun. Again, we don't have a way to know if the Pokédex entries are accurate, or if they are, whether Blossom sees the sun as a natural thing that they must summon, or if the dance is more similar to a prayer, calling a god of the sun forth each day, or even if it's just a dance of thanks for the light and energy the sun brings. Any one of those would have parallels to our world, but any one of them would also suggest a religious belief. Early on in Pokemon's release in the United States, my mother banned an episode of the anime for me. She actually banned several, but that's a complicated story for another time, and everything is much better now. Bulba Mom is very supportive. It wasn't until I was about 13 that I finally got around to watching the episode and realized why she had banned it. The episode, Clefairy and the Moonstone, contains some scenes that won't fly in certain households. In the episode, the Clefairy are said to worship the Moonstone. In the original Japanese, they actually call the Moonstone a god, and that's not from the Pokédex, even though the Dex kind of hints at this too. That's directly from a Clefairy to Pikachu and correctly translated by Ash. This would be one of the big differences between Pokemon and animals in our world. Some of them have beliefs that either are or are very similar to what we would call religious ones. Your dog may love you, but he doesn't worship you, and I doubt he worships the sun either. It might be prudent at this point to bring up that many ghost Pokemon are actual ghosts, meaning that the soul or something like it exists in the Pokemon world, if only by virtue that is what a lot of ghost Pokemon are said to feed on. But the belief in a soul is not in and of itself a religion, unless... What if we look at this rarely used Pokédex entry for Ninetales, who itself is based on a kitsune, a fox spirit from Japan. A few of Ninetales' Pokédex entries say that 9 noble saints were reincarnated as this Pokémon, and there's actually 3 things to unpack from that incredibly short blurb. The first, it suggests that people in the Pokémon world believe in reincarnation, and have a karma-based hierarchy on how people are reincarnated. This is inferred by the noble adjective given to the souls, and our knowledge that Ninetales is respected. It's obviously important that the souls were noble, and being a Ninetales is implied to be a good thing. Number 2, it includes Pokemon in the reincarnation belief, showing that Pokemon have significance in the moral view of the humans of that world. When people in our world say what it's possible for you to be reincarnated as, they're also declaring that thing has a soul or spirit, and that yours could be the same. It's possible to come back as a Ninetales, or another human, or an elephant, because they have souls that are similar. but a bag of dog food or a hyper potion wouldn't really be feasible, because even if they do have a soul, it's not the same kind. 3. It also says saints. Saint can have a secular meaning, but I really doubt that's what they're referring to here. Various religions have what are called saints in English, though this is a drastic oversimplification, and their roles can vary from being someone highly respected while still alive to someone who has passed on and able to either intercede for or directly influence someone's life. For the context, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the conclusion that it may be referencing bodhisattvas, who are beings who have made a vow to attain Buddhahood and have been told by a Buddha that they will accomplish that task. I'm not going to go into a long explanation of what bodhisattvas are, but it suffices to say that they could fit into this dex entry. And that's not all Ninetales gives us. Its Alolan form also has some interesting tidbits, mentioning that it was seen to inhabit sacred ground, and also that it itself was seen to be a manifestation of a deity, which is something to say the least. It's a nice way to introduce the concept of Pokémon being deities though, which is a path we will return to shortly. First, I want to make a pit stop at this building here in Hearthome City. It's called the Foreign Building in the English version of the game, and the Foreign Culture Building in Japanese. It's pretty obviously a church, and not just for aesthetic purposes like in the anime here. In Japan, though the majority are followers of a mixture of Shinto and Buddhism, it's actually very common to get married in a Christian church, but this is more of a cultural statement than a religious one. The Foreign Building is unique though, in that it's explorable and has people you can speak to in it. They talk about the supernatural, and there's a respectful lack of music playing. It's obviously an important building, though we really don't get too much information other than its name. Believe it or not, there's actually a real-world precedent for that name in Rome of all places. See, we can say ancient Rome and mean any part of the empire, but in reality, Rome was defined by a boundary known as the Pomerium, which was a sacred border that encompassed some of the 7 hills and was descended from one established by Romulus himself. Technically, Rome was whatever land was inside that boundary, and everything else was land belonging to Rome. It held massive cultural and religious importance that I can't get into here, but the important thing is that theoretically, foreign deities weren't allowed inside the Pomerium. Only gods native to Rome's cultists were. This was not always followed, but the idea is there. Maybe this building is called the Foreign Building for a similar reason. Maybe that's why it looks like what we would recognize as a cathedral or a church, because that religion would be foreign to the one native to the Pokémon world. It's not carrying the negative connotations the word has today, it's simply declaring that it's not a sacred site for members of the Pokémon world. What is it doing there then? I honestly have no idea. That's not what this theory is about. It would certainly be interesting if/when we get the Sinnoh remakes to see this building in a higher resolution and find out what secrets it may hold. I might have to update this theory if that happens. So if the Foreign Building isn't a religious building for the majority of the people in the Pokemon world, what would be? Well, we have an island of Meowth worshippers in the Orange Archipelago who have no special buildings whatsoever. They just built this kind of raised platform with their golden Meowth on top. And there's a temple for Slowpoke in Enlighten Up. But for me, the most religious structure in the Pokemon world is this simple shrine here, found in the Ilex Forest in Johto. This is based on a Hokora, or roadside shrine in Shinto, and that's actually its name in Japanese. It may be smaller than the other examples, but despite its size, it leads us to the main point of this video. You see, this structure enshrines Celebi, a legendary Pokemon who can travel through time, though its time travel isn't what makes it special. I'm going to take just a second to go on a quick tangent. Here and in all of my videos, I use the term legendary Pokémon to refer to Pokémon in both the legendary and mythical classes. It was not until Gen 5 that a distinction was made in the international releases. I know the difference, but played too long under the old series to care. Back to Celebi, who is said to be a guardian of the forest, or a forest deity. It's not the first one to be named a deity, but since I managed to segue so nicely here using sacred architecture, we'll get to the others in a minute. Celebi, in line with both Pokédex entries and representations, can create and heal plant life around it. Celebi displays powers that regular grass types do not. Many grass types may pollinate, grow, have symbiotic relationships with, or even may be plants, but Celebi's mere presence creates plants in a way reminiscent of another forest deity that I love very much. It has the power to create life, which we'll just pin right here as one of the things that's making deity Pokemon different from Pokemon who are just worshipped or not worshipped at all. There are, right now, almost 80 legendary Pokemon. I cannot break down each of them unless I made it an appendix video, otherwise this will go on for 2 hours. But I'll go over a few of the ones I consider to be deities, along with my justifications and analysis. I'll also use a few examples of ones that don't appear to be deities, so you yourself can draw conclusions on the others. However, if I get enough positive feedback for the idea, I might make a follow-up video where I lay out the entire thing. Trust me, it would be a lot of fun for me. Going from Celebi, who I do think would be considered a deity in our world, we come to Mew, who I wouldn't. It's odd, because Mew is the first mythical Pokemon, and it's said to be the ancestor of all Pokemon, which I disagree with and have a theory, but Mew is not special or powerful enough to be seen as a deity. It has the gimmick of being able to learn every move, but it doesn't bestow these moves onto the worthy. It's not the originator of Pokemon battles where those moves find use. It's cute, it's rare, it flies, and that's it. Mew doesn't possess direct control over a natural element with greater than average force. It doesn't spawn plants wherever it goes. It didn't give birth to the sun or oceans. So it's legendary or mythical even, but not actually a being of worship. So you can see where I'm going with this, right? Comments? Questions? Moving on then. We'll get to the divine Pokemon to end all divine Pokemon. Arceus, the first Pokemon, the first being, the one who shaped the Pokemon universe. More than once I've seen people liken Arceus to the singular god found in Abrahamic faiths, mostly as a way to counterbalance it with Giratina, who is supposed to represent the devil. I'll explain why I disagree with this partially here, and then wrap it up when I talk about Giratina. First, there's nothing singular about the Pokemon that are powerful enough to be considered deities. Arceus itself creates other deities, and therefore is not the only one. Second, while the concept of the first being arising from chaos is present in too many religions to count, the egg is a little more rare, showing up in some branches of Hinduism and Chinese mythology, but most notably Egyptian, and I swear that will be important in a minute. You see, in some Egyptian creation myths, the universe started out as chaos, until an egg formed in that void and hatched a creation deity. Due to Egypt's long, and I mean long, history, which deity it was changed from time to time. But occasionally that deity would be like Atum, who then went on to create other deities. Atum is a very important god to the Egyptian religion, but he's not the most important. You may not have ever even heard of him. Sometimes creator deities do their creation, and that's their only significance. This is the role that Arceus seems to play. It's been shown to occasionally come back and help humanity from disaster, but it doesn't really appear to have an active role in maintaining the world it created. On Giratina's side of things, people say that it is the devil to Arceus's god role, but I think Giratina might be a deity too. It's certainly powerful enough, and it can still play into opposing forces with Arceus by taking a role similar to Set in Egyptian mythology. See, I said it would all come together. It did. Beautiful circle. Likewise, Set started out on good terms with the other gods, but after a bit of mischief, was banished to be the lord of the harsh desert, chaos, and destruction. Giratina's world is nothing but chaos and a reversal of the order that we're used to. Giratina is shown to sometimes still be helpful, like battling an angered Arceus on behalf of humanity, and Set likewise had a role protecting the sun itself from being destroyed each night, because even chaos has its limits. Also, as another coincidental similarity, Set was represented by the color red, and what color is the land in the distortion world? Rust, which is a type of red. However, chaos is also necessary. Without darkness, how would we recognize the light, as Tuvok would say? So Giratina may have a role yet undiscovered in the religion of the Pokémon world as the keeper of that balance. The other 5 created by Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf, are the creators of time, space, knowledge, emotion, and willpower, respectively, which are all necessary ingredients for creating more beings. Again, all of these Pokemon bear traits that make them stronger than regular Pokemon. Being able to gift emotions to all of humanity or to stretch out space is not something that your Pikachu can do. These are deities who control and maintain their realms of influence just like the polytheist gods. Later came Groudon and Kyogre, who created the land and oceans, and even have a rivalry with one another, which is not uncommon in mythology. Rayquaza is the god of the sky, and has even answered the prayer of the Draconid people in the past. After creating the land, Regigigas hauled the continents into place, and it and the other Regis came to be worshipped before being locked away. Conversely, think of Genesect, Deoxys, or Zacian. All legendary, all rare, awesome, all powerful, but none of them have exceeding control over their environment, even if some of them feature in the mythology of their region. I wouldn't include them in a pantheon of the Pokemon deities because they aren't shown to have a place in it. There's no element that they alone control, no intangible emotion or moral that they give us. They're exceptional, there's no doubt about that, but they do seem to be lesser than the Pokemon such as the Regis or the Alolan Guardians, which would lead to the second way to identify a Pokemon deity. Not just powerful, but powerful enough to have a solidified sphere of influence. Giratina can control chaos, Azelf can control willpower, and so on. These 2 traits, either having the power to create life or having a solid sphere of influence, would separate these Pokemon from their relatives, who are merely supernatural creatures to our eyes. And the people of the Pokemon world seem to recognize this. Many of these Pokemon feature in their mythologies and in several cases are even prayed to. Considering the target audience of the series, it's not so unusual that more mention of worship isn't included, but even with the kid-friendly atmosphere, we know that beings like Rayquaza are prayed to, and even answer those prayers when the threat from Groudon or Kyogre becomes too much. Similarly, Landorus is honored with a shrine and can be prayed to there to summon him to stop Tornadus and Thundurus from destroying the region. The bell and tin towers of Ecruteak City seem to be a place of worship for Ho-Oh and Lugia, at least originally, and there are monks and priests and priestesses as well, showing that some do follow a profession to maintain cultural or religious traditions and worship of these Pokemon. The souls of departed Pokemon are prayed for, and even humans, such as the ghost of Maiden's Peak, are sometimes enshrined and prayed for. The monks, or sages, in the games seem to be based on Buddhist monks, and Buddhism is not always a deist religion, but due to Japan's unique blend of Buddhist and Shinto beliefs, their presence does not interfere with the rest of this theory, and the point I made about Ninetales earlier, if true, might suggest that the form of ascetic living in the Pokemon world is tied to their religious beliefs. So, we have Pokemon powerful enough to be gods, who behave like gods, and a community of people who take up their worship, sometimes as a profession. Structures built to honor or worship them, but is that a religion? Defining religion is a complex thing and frequently encourages ethnocentrism, as the person doing the defining is likely to base their definition on what their cultural environment has told them is religion, even if they don't practice one. Many cultures prior to the Abrahamic faiths didn't have a name for religion as a concept. In fact, in Pokemon's home of Japan, many people will still say that they don't have a religion, but act in a way that seems contradictory by visiting a temple or a shrine. That's because in cultures with this distinction, the rituals, beliefs, and worship are simply a part of life. They don't have a name for it. Even the word religion, from the Latin religio, in ancient Rome meant a host of things outside of the sacred world, from the proper caring of one's parents to how elephants seem to show reverence for the sun and moon. This is how I view religion acting in the Pokemon world. If you asked Ash or Lance what their religion is, they'd probably give you a weird look. But if you asked who they think created the universe, or who the Guardian of the Forest is, they'd give you a clear answer that clearly showed belief. Arceus created the universe, and reverence, temples, or worship of it is so endemic that they simply don't have a formal name or a doctrine to it. It's simply the way things are. Some people show their reverence by walking the path of an ascetic, some may battle to honor the deity Pokemon, others may devote part or all of their lives to being priests and priestesses, but most people probably aren't that active. They go to work, they pray for their departed Trebuch's soul, maybe a few festivals during the year, a visit to the temple once or twice a month, or during a big life change, but it's not a conscious religion. There isn't Arceusism, and it doesn't clash with the Warriors of Dialga, probably. People can start a special devotion to Meowth, or find enlightenment with a Slowpoke, and maybe reincarnate as a Ninetales if they find that enlightenment. But there's not a correct belief that engenders conflict or disagreement. They have their practices and prayer and respect for the Pokemon that shaped their world, but they don't have, quote, an official religion, end quote, that would be tied up in a neat little package for us to understand. And that's it. The religion of the Pokemon world seems to be very complex, ingrained in their culture with a living history and deities you can actually catch in Pokeballs and... Wait. Let me roll that back for a second. If Arceus and Groudon and Melmetal are deities, how come they can be captured? Well, I'd theorize that one of the primary goals of a Pokemon is to become partners with humans, their companions and friends, and why should that change just because they're the ones who hauled the continents into place? Omnipresence, or the ability to be in multiple or all places at once as a trait of deities, is extremely common and is almost common sense. If I'm praying to Mars at this temple, how is he also in every other temple that's doing the same? Easy, he can be in multiple places at once. Why wouldn't that also be true of legendary Pokemon? They can create life and oceans and more life. Why can't they be in multiple locations at once? Maybe when you show exceptional skill as a trainer to these Pokemon, they see you as worthy of their time and join you for your journey. They're thousands of years old. The few years that they spend with you are not going to seem like that long to them. They can still summon the earth and guard the forest, but they're also with you and me, seeing how the trainers who were able to challenge them in battle are going to go through life. And of course, they respect the rules of the Pokemon battles because, like we discussed last time, Pokemon battles might be sacred. And that's it. The religion of the Pokemon world seems to be very complex, with living history and several deities who just happen to be Pokemon. occasionally being called on for help or honored, but so much a part of that world that it's not a topic like it is in ours. I couldn't have made this video in the Pokemon world. Polytheist without a hardcore doctrine behind it. I know my conclusions are always short, but if you feel that I left anything out or have thoughts on this theory, I'd love to see them down below. Of course, if you did like it, I would appreciate a like so that maybe more people might see it. If you aren't subscribed, I invite you to go do so you don't miss out on future content like more Pokemon theories or the Assassin's Creed proposal I'm working on. As always, I will see you all next time, and stay safe.